Hey guys, welcome to the Short Term Show special episode series on Shenandoah, Virginia. A couple things I want to hit you with first before we get into the episodes. One, current purchase prices and current income data can be found on our website at theshorttermshop.com. So make sure you check that out because that can change all the time. Also, if you guys want to hang out with us and just talk about short-term rental stuff, you can do that with us and 60,000 of our closest short-term rental investor friends at our Facebook group. Same title as my book, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. Make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast and all of our podcasts if you can, because that really helps us out. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Short Term Shop YouTube, and then also follow us on Instagram at The Short Term Shop. And if you're ready to buy a house with us in any of our 20 markets, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com or really any of the avenues that I just gave you. Now let's get into it.
There we go. Short-term shop special episodes, Shenandoah. Today we're going to talk about putting your team together, man. It's a huge part of it for me. I've never sold a house in my life. Let me get that out of the way. Never been a real estate agent. I've sold my own houses like twice, and I regretted it both times. But I'm not an agent. But we do have a wonderful agent from the Shenandoah area, Mr. Alan Taylor. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, and Alan, of course, does own and operate short terms of his own. And today we're going to talk about putting your team together. This is something near and dear to my heart, as I'm married to one of the biggest real estate agents in history. She's a total rock star. Avery, of course, from the short term. And very important to me to have a good agent on my side, somebody that's plugged into the market, somebody that if you ask them a question about a house, they already know everything about that house, or they're willing to find it out in a 5-minute period. You know, it blows my mind when every now and then you run into somebody who thinks that agents are not necessary, you know. But to me, it's wait a minute. Yeah, I mean, it's literally like doing your own surgery. So I don't get that part. So we'll talk about agents, obviously, quite a bit today since Alan is on board, and we'll talk lenders and home inspectors, cleaners, handy people, etc. So, what are we looking for in an agent? I mean, this is something that's discussed at extensively around here, but let's not hesitate to repeat ourselves. There's a lot of agents out there that, first of all, what kind of agent am I talking about? And yes, we want you to use a short-term shop. All right. Maybe it is just a big sales pitch at the end of the day, but there's a reason for it. We're the best in the business. And some agents, you got to be careful. There's some agents out there that are dealing with, primary homes and mobile homes, and they're just kind of taking whatever they can get, and maybe not quite as knowledgeable, and maybe haven't done a ton of deals, or maybe they're doing too many deals. It kind of runs the whole spectrum. Here's another one. A lot of real estate podcasts and such will recommend that you talk to multiple agents. I personally always found that was a terrible idea, because none of them are going to like you if they end up finding out about that. But Alan, what do you think on that subject? Should I talk to more than one agent?
I have mixed feelings on that. I've my own personal experience doing that. Yeah, it usually does not end up creating good relationships with the people you talk to. And I feel like there's also some risks as far as like you're going to get told what they think you want to hear. And I feel like there's some risk to that. Some of these agents will sell you like up and down, like they're going to tell you they're the best for looking for investment real estate, but that's not always going to be the case. So you got to do your homework, but it doesn't always pay to like interview or talk to lots of different agents at the same time. You're just going to get yourself mixed up.
And they're going to catch on. It's almost like dating. At some point she's going to realize that you're out there running around with 4 other girls, and she's not going to like that, So in my experience, it's always been it's the time. You can train your agent too. Like, if you're the type of person that's going to end up buying 100 houses, and I've done that, I handpicked an agent and trained her. And if you're the kind of person that's buying that many deals, you basically got your own agent. You know what I mean? So, I've got an agent in one of my long-term rental markets. She doesn't really do anything other than work with me. And it's actually a pretty good feeling to be able to keep her that busy. Now that's obviously very, difficult. Not everybody can do that, but having somebody on your side that's got your best interest is key. And I will say that it is hard. It's hard if you've never closed a deal, because agents work on 1099, and if you don't close a deal, they don't get paid. Is that right? No, but it's just the way it's always been. And it has nothing to do with real estate agents in general. That is the way of life for somebody in 1099. It's a different lifestyle. It's a different world. And so that's something to mind as somebody, if you're a W-2 person, you can't hold it against us 1099 people. Number one, and I'm not an agent. Again, I'm not an agent, but I do get most of my rental. Some of my rental income comes 1099. Some of it is, well, it's all going to come on a 1099. Then you put it on Schedule E. We get crapped on, quite frankly, in most aspects of life. We don't have the freedom of time. You know, when the clock strikes 5, we're still working. You know, a lot of times if you're an agent, Alan, I don't want to speak on your behalf here, but you're going to get busier after everybody else is off the clock, because that's when they have time to think about stuff like this. And also, let's not forget our taxes are much higher on 1099, you know? So it is a completely different way of life. And it does have its ups and it has its positives for sure. You know, we get to be in some aspects a little bit more free, but just keep that in mind. If you're a W-2 person and dedicated to your day job, which is great. I love that. You know, I had a W-2 for a long time. And it really is the best way to come up with down payments and financing. But you know, you got to understand that being an agent is a bit of a different way of life. Sometimes folks say just pick the agent answers the phone first. Is this the right thing to do?
Man, I would say that's probably not the best guidance there. If that agent is just waiting around for the phone to ring, what are they doing with all that other time? I mean, I got to ask, like, if somebody is just sitting by the phone waiting for it to ring, I mean, there's all kinds of other stuff they could be doing. They should be busy with clients. They should be out there, you know, looking at homes, all that kind of stuff. And if they're the first person to answer the phone, who knows? I mean, if once you are their client, are they just going to interrupt whatever they're doing to answer the phone instead of working for you? I don't know. That's the questions I'd be asking myself. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, I will say as a buyer, I do want my agent to be very responsive. And I'm a text guy, which is something that I'm trying to get out of as I get older. The text messages, you know, like an old person that wants to talk on the phone, but you just can get more done that way in some cases. Or like, you know, you never know. If you're texting all day long with somebody who's not good at texting, they're not going to interpret it right. Somebody that is not a text person, you know what I mean? There's going to be some miscommunication there. So that's something. How you communicate with your agent, I think, is more important than just the first person to the phone, because you're right. Generally, the person that's like been assigned to answer the phones in the brokerage that day it probably doesn't, you know, they're pretty low on the totem pole as number of deals that they close. And it depends on the brokerage. Some brokerages are not even going to have somebody that answers the phone, you know. So, yeah, you know, it could go either way there. I do personally like somebody who's super responsive and on top of my needs. I've bought stuff in the past just because the salesperson, not even just houses, but just because the salesperson was kick-ass, you know. I bought a tractor recently, and I knew what tractor I wanted, and I shopped it around. We've got a farm, and I shopped it around to 3 or 4 different tractor places, and I went, you know, it was the same damn tractor. It was pretty much the same damn price. But I went with the guy that I got the best vibe from. So vibe is definitely a big deal there. You should get a pretty good vibe from your agent. And the truth is if they're specialized, yeah, see, again, sales pitch time. If the shop is so niched down that it's just a win-win. You know, I mean, if you go to Alan, this is all he does all day. He's not playing around with other asset classes. And most agents don't have that luxury. Most agents have to do whatever comes through the door. And so that's why, you know, that's another beautiful thing about the shop. But anyway, I just want everybody to believe in us because we believe in you, man. So, you know, and then another thing that you see on Facebook all the time, let's talk about when it comes to real estate agents, referrals are a real thing. You'll see on Facebook all the time where somebody will say, or not even just Facebook, but just anywhere in the world, sometimes an agent will get like a referral fee. So if somebody says, I'm looking to buy a house in Shenandoah, and it's just a random real estate agent that happens to see that, they'll say, oh, sure, let me hook you up with my friend that does this in Shenandoah. And then that person that's in like Minnesota, never even been there before, takes a cut of the deal. It's very common in the insurance business as well. Referrals are running rampant, and you got to be careful with that, because then the agent on the other end, if you're doing a deal with Alan and he's got to give a cut to somebody else, he might, be a little less interested in doing the deal. So I guess a good way to do it. Alan, how do I avoid that? I guess, well, one thing that comes to mind is ask if you're getting a recommendation from somebody, ask them if they've actually done a deal with that person. Have you closed a deal with this person you're recommending? Because if not, you can guarantee it's a referral situation. And for me personally, I don't like a lot of hands in the cookie jar. Let's just get down to brass tacks and get this thing done. See what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. So like if I were to like send like a colleague of mine over to like a different market and say, hey, I would recommend working with this person. I'm not looking for a referral. I just want that person to succeed. Like I want them to have a great experience with that agent. I want them to, find a great property. I want them to be able to win. And so it's not what's in it for me. I want them to succeed. And that's the whole interest behind it. So if somebody's asking, for like a referral fee or something like that, I mean, it doesn't matter if I have to like give a cut to somebody else. I just want you to win. I'm here, fighting for you, working for you. I want you to win. So it's not going to be necessarily a motivating factor for me personally, but that may be the case with other agents. If they get a referral fee, they have to like, slice, they get a little bit of a thinner slice of that pie, then yeah, they might not be working as hard as you'd like them to. And yeah. I did want to foot something else. Like, the agent who answers the phone first, like in this market, in a lot of markets around here, you're going to find like the cell phone reception is not always the greatest. I mean, if you're in like a mountain market, like the Smokies or, a little bit here in the Shenandoah, they may not be in a place that doesn't have like cell phone reception. They may not be the person who responds the first, but that could mean that they're out there working. And if, as far as like responsive goes, every client works a little bit differently. I have people who work just in text messages, and I have agents that I've worked with. They prefer just text messages. They don't like getting on the phone. They don't like email. So it depends. Find the agent that works well with your communication style, that's responsive at the tempo that you work best with, and it's not necessarily the person who answers the phone first. And as far as like when it comes to like referrals and people who are going to be working hard for you, their agents are interviewing you as a client just as much as you are interviewing them, and so that be sure to ask questions. Be cognizant of the fact that not every agent is going to want to work with the person who just calls in from out of state somewhere. But there are things you can do to indicate to them that you're serious and you intend to buy a property. And you might be a person who buys multiple properties, and they'll work even harder for you.
There are some agents out there that are trying to make basically a living off of referrals, and they don't even close deals. So keep that in mind. Ask the agent that's giving you the referral how many deals they close. You got to be careful. If you're new and don't have a lot of experience with agents and buying a house, first of all, I'm just the kind of guy that I like to know how everything works. So let me ask you, what are some decent questions to ask an agent if I'm new and I'm maybe I'm coming into a new market? What's a decent question, just as a noob, maybe 4 or 5 questions that I should ask?
I would say ask them, what kind of real estate do you deal with? I mean, is this your specialty? Ask them what their focus is. And if they're not focused on something, that might be something worth considering. If they're doing a mix of every little, thing, if they're trying to do commercial and residential and investment, and they're just all over the place, they're going to have a hard time focusing on, exactly what you guys have as goals. So definitely be cognizant of that. But I would say also, ask them like how well they know the area. Like ask them a few pointed questions like, hey, where should I be looking here? What are the qualifications? What properties are going to do well for, a short-term rental in this particular market? And they should be able to, rattle off like, hey, this is what a good property is going to look like. These are the areas you should be focused in. And heck, they might even, here in the short-term shop, we often book a call with you to go over like an overview of the market and help you kind of focus in on the areas that are going to be most fruitful. And they should be able to do something like that for you.
Absolutely. Yep. To me, it's mostly personality. Can I get along with this person and the communication style and the vibe, just like anything in life. And let's talk lenders. How do I find one? It's a good place to start.
So, I mean, here in the short-term shop, we often have like local lenders that we've worked with, people we worked with in the past that, are familiar with doing, loan products for short-term rentals, second home loans, investment loans, all that kind of stuff. And you can either, hey, if you've got a lender you've worked with in the past, you've done deals with, it's totally fine. But we always recommend finding somebody who's familiar with, the local market. And they've done deals, they've done loans here in, here in the Shenandoah, somebody who's done loans on, cabins or properties out here in the Shenandoah region, vacation rentals. that they know the ins and outs. And you can always feel free to interview your lenders. Like ask them, hey, have you done second home loans? Have you done investment loans here in this area? What are the things to look out for? What are the pitfalls, that kind of thing? Interview them. Make sure that you know that they're confident that they can close. And heck, if they can close faster, I mean, this is still as of right now, it's still kind of a lowish inventory market, and things are still moving pretty dang quick. So ask them, hey, how fast can you close? And oftentimes that can be a huge motivating factor. It's a big value add as far as putting together an offer for a seller, is being able to close quickly. So yeah, ask them all those questions.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes I don't even need to close. I like to ask that anyway. Hey, if I had could you close this thing in 3 weeks? Could you close this thing in 4 weeks? Now, sometimes I don't need to or even care. Sometimes it can go 4, 5, 6 weeks, but it is nice to know. That's a good question to ask them. How long are you getting, to get something closed right now? Talk nationwide versus local. I think they both have a time and a place. The big nationwide, kind of more of a, maybe sometimes even a better product, maybe even a better interest rate. And, they are more of a factory, kind of like they just kind of rinse and repeat. And it's kind of nice to have that big machine on your side. But at the same time, so downside of that is the local folks are like plugged into the market. They know the agents, they know the neighborhood, they know the house in some cases, so sometimes it can be comforting to find that. And a lot of times it'd be pretty comparable to a nationwide. Do you have any opinions on nationwide versus local, or give them both a try?
I say give them both a try, and I always recommend to people, hey, get competitive quotes. Go to more than one lender, because there's a period of time if you're in the market for a house, there's a period of time where you can go to several lenders and have them pull your credit, and it's not going to ding your credit. I want to say it's like 45 days or thereabouts. There's probably a lender out there who's screaming out there and like, hey, no, it's 90 days or whatever it is. But
to my knowledge, it is 45 days. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's a period of time when you can go to multiple lenders, get competitive quotes, and I highly recommend people do that. Now, check out the nationwide guys. One of the lenders that I recommend here locally he's also based nationwide. And so he's familiar with, doing, second home loans, investment loans all over the place. So he can give you some insights and kind of compare and give you an idea of what to expect out there. And I would recommend, trying out some of the local guys, trying out some nationwide, see what you get, and go with the one that you've got a good communication style with. I can't tell you how many times a lender might have the lowest rates, but they might not be able to close in a period of time that's reasonable, where the person never answers the phone, never responds to emails in a timely fashion. So if they've got like the quote unquote the better like loan programs or lower interest rates, if they're a pain to deal with, that's going to be a pain that you're going to have to deal with, and your agent's going to have to deal with, and the seller's going to have to deal with. So make sure you don't just go with the lowest interest rate necessarily. Make sure you've got a well-rounded lender who's going to be good on communication as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got no problem paying just a little bit more on interest to not necessarily to, in other words, if I got a pain in the ass mortgage person it's a 1% lower than a really awesome mortgage person, I'm going to tough it out with the pain in the rear end mortgage person, unless I feel like they're not going to get the deal closed. Like, unless they're going to because you never know. Somebody might just throw you a ridiculous rate just to kind of reel you in, and then come to the last second and they're like, oh, never mind, we can't do this. So go with your gut on that for sure. Lenders are, in my opinion, that's the most important part of this gig, is being a real estate person in general. If you're going to buy more than one house in your life, to me personally, the money is the most important part. How do I get that next loan? The hardest part is getting the cash put down, period. That is always the hard part. Where do I get the cash to buy these things? But the most important part to learn about, if you want to get obsessed with something, in my opinion, the mortgage aspect of the business, don't spend too much time worrying about your 10 conventional loans. Don't worry about that. At some point, you're going to run out of 10 conventional. Guess what? If you've got enough cash to blow through 10 conventional loans, you don't have a lot of problems in life. Let's be real. You know what I mean? So I see that a lot of times where new folks get hung up on, oh, my DTI, my 10 conventionals. First of all, again, you got go on a tangent here, but so many noobs so sucked into the I'm out of DTI thing. Well, here's the deal. It basically coincides with your cash. If you're out of DTI, you are probably out of cash anyway. So just give it a year. Take your time. Be patient. Wait till you get another tax return. That'll make your DTI look better because the house you bought last year is making income. Once you get that income on a tax return, it makes your DTI go up. It'll probably be higher than when it was before you bought that house, but you need a tax return or two to make that happen. And guess what happens while you're waiting for tax returns? Got time to build up your cash reserves and build up another down payment. That, again, my friends, is unless you're going to hit the lottery or you got some kind of rich uncle with nothing better to do with his money than give it to you to buy houses, which is awesome. Both of those things would be awesome. Yeah, otherwise, man, it's slow. You got to take your time, go slow. So during that process, waiting on that cash to build up in your bank account, waiting on that tax return to come back in and boost you back up again, read some books, listen to some podcasts, find out everything you can find out about lending. All right. Let's talk home inspectors. Here's a little known secret. I went to home inspector school. Never did practice, but I went to school for it. Just because I was so obsessed with the house business. And this was before I ever knew anything about, I never even read Rich Dad back then and didn't know it existed. And, but I went to home inspector school in Lexington, Kentucky. It was awesome. I stayed in an Airbnb and went to home inspector school. And these guys are important. They are. I will say that a lot of times a home inspection is kind of worthless, especially if you don't know what you're doing or how to read one. If you don't know your way around a house, what good is it to do to look at this inspection? You know what I mean? So to me personally, the best way to learn about a house is just work on the one you're in. Go to Home Depot, go swap out outlets, change your air filters, little stuff. If you're calling somebody all the time to fix every tiny little detail of your house, that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying you need to put yourself to work. I'm not saying that, but you do need to know how this stuff works so that when the items break, you can tell who and how to fix it, right? But when it comes to home inspectors, again, speaking the same language is very important. How quick are they? I think here's something I'll throw at you. When you're hiring your home inspector, I think it's very important that they make sure they put the age of all the functions of the home, not just appliances, but HVAC, their best interpretation of the roof. This is one of the most important things I'm looking for on a home inspection. I want an age of everything. And a lot of times, if they can't figure it out or don't know what it is, all you need is the serial number. Okay, if you got the serial number on a water heater, you can just Google it. There's 100 different websites that'll tell you exactly how old that thing is. Water heater? I don't want a water heater that's older than 12 years in a long term. Older than 8 years in a short term, something like that. But again, good news is water heaters aren't that expensive, but then to have a conversation with the inspector, make sure that they're, the first time you do it, you're going to make mistakes. Okay. But there's some things that you're going to want to know. Okay. I'm not afraid of a roof. 99% of the time you can put a new roof on the house and just move on. And then you got a brand new roof, which is awesome. Now, if you got some issues, structural issues on the roof, I 4 houses that had fires in the attic or went through to the attic. But I go up there and I look at it and I feel like I've been doing this long enough. I got a pretty good idea of what I'm looking at. And, okay, yeah, got a little chart up here and there, but they reinforced it with some new rafters and new joists. And then they come up and maybe they coat it all with Kills. So it doesn't, a protective paint basically so that it doesn't smell. And things like that. And I have done that. I've bought houses that had fires in the attic, a couple of them. I bought a duplex one time that the whole kitchen went up in flames and it went up to the second, and I just put it in the budget. That was actually a package of duplexes. I bought 7 duplexes on the same street, which is a dynamite deal. At the time it was stressful as hell, but looking back on it, it was dynamite. And I just factored in that. I said, you know what? Here's what it's costing me. It's just going to cost me this much to go in here and roof the kitchen, put a new roof on this bad boy, maybe sure up some of the joists in the attic, and move on. And we got a great tenant living in there, living a great life in a beautiful home. It's got granite tops now and nice floors and the whole 9 yards. But anyway, when it comes to a home inspector, I want as much detail as I can possibly get on the foundation. whether it's going to be a crawl or a slab or a basement, whatever it's going to be. That's where I want most of my emphasis, because I would say 9 times out of 10 for me personally, it's the foundation that's going to tell me whether or not I'm going to buy the house. Almost everything else, if the deal's right and the numbers are right, I'm personally not that worried about it. I've bought houses with, squishy subfloors and things like that. As long as the joists underneath the house look good and I can just go in and replace the subfloor, factor that in, that kind of thing. Getting off way into the weeds now, but what are you looking for in a home inspector there, Alan?
So this is a good question. I feel like it's going to be a little bit subjective, but I would say I highly recommend to every single client that I work with that they personally interview the home inspectors. And don't just rely on your real estate agent to go out and pick one. They're going to try and pick the best one they can, but maybe they're not necessarily the one that works best with you, or they're not going to be, looking for the stuff that you're interested in. So your agent can set this up, but I highly recommend that people, you call around, talk to these, home inspectors, ask them what kind of report format they send out. How soon after the home inspection is done can you expect a report? What are their fees? Ask them all those questions. You be the one to pick this person out. Don't just rely on your agent. I mean, your agent is your representation. They're going to do the best they can to try and get you, squared away. But this is ultimately up to you. And for anybody who's like in that market, if you're a remote buyer, I mean, it's a different thing. You're going to have to ask your agent to kind of be there with the home inspector when the inspection happens. But I highly recommend, especially if you've never bought a home before, or you've never used a home inspector, or you're not familiar with that process. If at all possible, I highly recommend you be there during that inspection. Just make sure that you can go around and ask questions. That's a great opportunity to get educated, and they can point all kinds of stuff out to you you might not have ever thought about. I also don't recommend when home inspection happens, that is not a time to bring your whole family and your cousins and your uncles to go see the house. That is a time for the inspector to kind of go through with a fine tooth comb and find everything he can. And he's not going to be wanting to field questions from 16 people about, this part of the house or that part of the house. It's more for you to kind of focus on, what things you need to be aware of about the house. The age of the water heater, the age of the HVAC system, the condition of the roof, anything that looks out of place with the foundation. Like Luke was saying there. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to a house, and you're going to want a home inspector who's going to be paying attention to that. And if you've got any questions, or like, hey, this looks odd, or, does this look normal to you? It's a great time to bring up those questions. And you don't want and here's the reason I recommend that people be the person to, you be the person to choose the home inspector, is that you don't want there to be like buyer's remorse afterwards. You want to be the person that kind of chose this and, to feel good about the inspector, rather than having your real estate agent, pick somebody and all of a sudden you get an inspection report that you weren't expecting, or it wasn't in the format, or, it's not as thorough as you're hoping it would be. You be the person to interview it, just like a lender or a real estate agent. This is on your buying team. He's working for you. Make sure that you're comfortable with what he's going to be producing and sending out to you.
Yes, excellent points. And I will say that if my real estate agent recommends an inspector, pretty good chance I'm going to go with them. But you're right. Just because they recommended them is not a go. It's not the go zone. But I will say that, a lot of times your agent is recommending this person because they've had success with them and they were good and they're getting the deal done, So excellent points there. Excellent points. Let's talk handyman, cleaners, other vendors you're going to need after you close. How am I finding them? I would say Turno obviously has been gaining a lot of steam lately, but and we do have a small Facebook group in your market, but where are you having success with cleaners lately?
So yeah, I would say tune into the local Facebook groups. They often have cleaners that advertise their services there. That's usually a good place to start. That's somebody who's essentially saying, "Hey, I'm working in this market and looking to expand." So they've usually got a team in place there. They've usually got some experience, and feel free to ask them for references. If you run across somebody like that in a Facebook group, oftentimes they'll have other clients that they'll be happy to recommend, and you can kind of get a good idea of what their work ethic is like by talking to some of their other clients. And Turno is always a good place to start as well. You can get some competitive bids there as well. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with Turno in this market in particular, but yeah, it's always worth a try. And so I would say stick with the local Facebook groups. Ask other hosts in the area. It's always something worth trying. Is reach out their Airbnb, and sometimes you can get other hosts to kind of say, "Hey, this is who my cleaner is." That doesn't always work, and not every host appreciates when you reach out that way, but it can be worth a try.
Yeah, swimming pools in your market, and how do I find a pool guy?
So there's not a lot of swimming pools out in this market. There's a lot of hot tubs, and that's an amenity I always recommend people install. But there's a lot of hot tub servicing, hot tub sauna, pool servicing companies out here, and it's not hard to find them. So like, Shenandoah National Park in the Shenandoah region, touches 8 or 9 different counties. So it's a huge area. It just takes like 2 hours to drive from the top to the bottom. And that most of the companies that I've talked with are willing to service, within the 60 to 100 mile radius of where their storefront is. And there are, I don't know, there's probably 5 or 6 that I've counted just, driving around out there. So you're not going to have a lot of trouble there, but do make sure that they know what they're servicing. I had a hilarious conversation with a hot tub company out there. Is like, yeah, I'm working with some short-term rental clients, and they're going to want to install hot tubs, and do you guys offer servicing on that? And I could not get this lady to understand that I wasn't asking to rent their hot tub. Like, she thought I wanted to like rent their hot tubs on a short-term basis, like truck them out from their store and return them to their store, after like a week or so. And I could not, for the life of me, I could not get this lady to understand. I was like, no, this is a hot tub that they're going to buy and put at a property for short-term rental. And it was just just make sure that they understand, like, servicing is you're going to be purchasing a hot tub and putting it at a short-term rental property. Is just I wouldn't have thought I would ever have to like give that caveat, but yeah, just make sure that they know what to expect as far as servicing. It could be on a weekly basis. It could be on every single guest. Depends on what you want to do as a host, but definitely make sure they understand what their servicing tempo is going to look like.
Yeah, when you're brand new, you can. It's scary to think, oh my goodness, I have to hire these people. What if it doesn't work out? I'm far away. Everybody's always far away from the property. It's always like that in short term. It's one of the things in short term. Nobody lives near these things. Nobody lives in these towns, period. Only people like me and Alan are crazy enough to live in these vacation towns, which they're awesome, but it's not for everybody. So it's a couple of pointers there. I don't think it's even worth your time to go and start even, looking to hire a cleaner or a handy person until you are really freaking close, if not already like ready to open for business and take your first guest. Because I think a lot of times the cleaner's going to be like, wait a minute, you don't need me for like 3 months. Why are you calling me now? And then also another thing, don't make them change their processes. If you like a cleaner, if you get a good vibe from this person, you think you can trust them for a little while, at least to get things moving. Just lean on their systems. There's no reason to get in there and completely change. They're cleaning like 20 other properties, so you're one person with one house and you're brand new in most cases. So, trust them, do your best to make their life easier. Don't stress them out, because they're not going to like that. Cleaners do not like to be micromanaged, so what else? Did we miss anything, or how are we feeling? I feel pretty good on putting our team together here in Shenandoah, but any other notes on our way out?
I think we touched most of the bases. I would say if there's any other people you need to like add to your team, like, HVAC or, handyman or something like that, oftentimes your real estate agent should have, people on hand, people that they've worked with before, people they've had a good experiences with. So listen to your agent, but also do your own homework. Make sure that any recommendations they give you, call them up, talk to them, interview them, ask them a couple questions, make sure you've got a good communication vibe with them. And you can go from there. But foot stomp, like, you don't need to do this like 3 months in advance of a purchase. Like if you're looking to hire like, a cleaner, be within a week closing at least, make sure that they've, that you've got a time when you can actually go out there and meet them at the property, if at all possible, to interview them and make sure that you've got a good work ethic with them. Hiring
and firing is a skill. If you've never done it before, it's scary and it's stressful and it's hard. It really is. It's hard. So you just know it's just like anything else in life. It really is. I always go back to the running analogy because I'm a big runner. And so like, if it's something you want to get into, I remember my first couple of runs back in the day, like I was scared to death and I smoked cigarettes and I was like, oh man, what is this? Why am I even doing this? But I knew there was something out there that was better for me that I wanted to try. And I just pushed through and I got better at it. Next thing you know, you're running half marathons and don't even blink. You know what I mean? So, it's good to see you, buddy. Putting a good team together here in Shenandoah, wonderful market. And, if you need us, call us anytime, or don't call us, send us a message, text me, theshorttermshop.com. Thank you so much.